All right. Well, let's get started. Good morning, good evening, good night for some of you. Thank you again for joining us today. So this is a webinar. Hopefully you're in the right place. This is a webinar to discuss Sustainable Development Goals Week 2025, which will be held on March 3rd through 7th. That is the first week of March, and I believe this is our fourth year of hosting Sustainable Development Goals Week through University Global Coalition. So I see some names of people who have participated in the past, and we're so happy to have you coming back to join us, and also some new names. So we're happy to have you join us to learn about Sustainable Development Goals Week. Um, our thought today is really just to share some overview information about what Sustainable Development Goals Week is, some ways you can participate. We'll also share some tips for planning events and engagements during Sustainable Development Goals Week. And then we'll have some time for open discussion, actually a good amount of time for open discussion. So let me shift to the agenda here so you can see what I'm talking about. All right. And during that time, we'll ask those who have planned events or communications or engagements around Sustainable Development Goals Week to share their experiences, share any tips they have with planning. So more of an informal panel at this time. But we do invite you to ask questions throughout. You can ask in the chat. There's also a Q&A feature. So either one is okay. You can raise your hand if there's something that you'd like to ask related to the current topic or current slide. We're happy to, take people off mute. We have this on webinar settings, but we do want to engage with you all and make sure that we answer your questions. So um, quickly, I am Drew Cutright. I work at Georgia Institute of Technology in Atlanta, Georgia, in the US. Georgia Tech, for the last 4 years, was the chair of University Global Coalition. My boss, President Angel Cabrera, was one of the founders and the co-chairs of University Global Coalition. And University Global Coalition is an organization that brings together leaders from universities across the world who are interested in taking a holistic approach to integrating sustainable development at their universities. So integrating it into academics, research, operations, and partnerships at their universities. And so we've had some engagement events over the years. Some of you may have joined us for our annual gatherings that we previously held. Some of you may have joined for sustainable development goals or a working group or student challenges that we've hosted over the years. Georgia Tech is transitioning out of the chair role, or we have transitioned out of the chair role, and our new leadership, we're excited to welcome Earth University in Costa Rica and President Arturo Condo as the new chair of UGC. But Georgia Tech is remaining engaged through SDG Week. So again, I'm Drew Cutright and working with UGC on SDG Week. And then I want to turn it over to Karina to introduce herself.
Hi, Drew. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us. As Drew has mentioned, I'm also part of the organizing committee of the SDG Week. I'm Karina Ruiz. I'm from Tecnológico de Monterrey in Mexico. And also, as Drew has mentioned, Tecnológico Monterrey has been participating in University Global Coalition for its fourth year in a row. Tec de Monterrey is also part of steering committee, and it's also an honor for us to be co-hosting this year's SDG Week along with Georgia Tech and Drew, and it will be interesting and really nice to share with you all the ways that you can join and participate in the planning and the organizing of activities for SDG Week, and also share some previous experiences for the past 4 years, so you can get inspired and get some ideas of how you can engage your community at your different university or campuses for SDG Week. So from my side, Drew, I think we can just go on.
Okay. And I did see we had one hand up. Victor, I just unmuted you. Did you have a question? Would you let us know where you're joining from as well?
Um, Victor. Oh, oh, he's writing from in the chat.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we will.
That's
Um,
perfect, Victor. If you can share with us your question through the chat, we can answer it in the session.
okay. Great. So I'll keep moving, and we'll get to Victor's question as it comes up. But thank you. Appreciate the questions. Okay. So moving on to what is SDG Week, the main reason that we're here. I imagine that many of you are familiar, or maybe most of you are familiar with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. If not, that is okay. And we welcome you. And I will put a link in the chat to the SDGs. So these are 17 global goals that were developed by the member nations of the United Nations with a deadline of 2030. So these are 17 really high level overarching goals to achieve some major social progress in the world, everything from addressing hunger to gender equity to clean energy and water. And so SDG Week is really a time that we would like to celebrate SDG knowledge and action from universities around the world. And we invite you to kind of showcase what's going on to really create this groundswell of sustainable development activity during 1 week of the year, although we know you're continuing your activity throughout the year. So again, this is going to be the first week of March, the 3rd through 7th. And on the next page, I will talk about ways that you can participate. In UGC Week, we invite participants to host events either virtually or on their campus. We invite you to share communications and really just to think of creative ways to share your work around sustainable development. We do have some non-university partners that participate as well, and we'll talk about guidelines for that on the next slide. On the right here, you can see just a snippet of the global virtual calendar that we share through UGC's website. So we do ask that when people plan events that are open to a larger audience virtually, that you share those with the UGC calendar so we can help you promote them and share them out to our audience. And then this 2025 week is chaired by Tech de Monterey, who Karina is representing, and then Georgia Tech, which is me and my colleagues. Okay, and so ways to participate. The main way that you can participate in Sustainable Development Goals Week is to plan an event and share that with the University Global Coalition calendar. Throughout the webinar, we'll share a link that you will submit your events through that has the event requirements as well. And the events can also be in-person events. So when we started Sustainable Development Goals Week, it was during the height of the COVID pandemic, and pretty much everything was virtual. So it was a great way to connect with people around the world, and it still is. But in the last couple of years, we've seen a lot more people hosting activities on their campus or in their community, either in addition to or instead of the virtual activities. And we encourage that as well. So in terms of the event requirements, they are pretty broad. In a lot of ways, this is almost like a conference where you provide a proposal and the barrier to entry and acceptance is quite low. The event does need to take place during the week of March 3rd through 7th. You and your team, or just you, if you're planning the event, would need to select the date and the time that you would like to host the event. And of course, this allows for a variety of time zones to participate in a way that's most convenient for them. The event does need to be free of charge. And we do like if it's open to anyone wishing to attend to encourage a broad audience. The last thing is really that the event needs to be focused on a sustainable development goal related topic or multiple topics. We do think it's a good idea to have it, again, applicable to a broad audience, but it can be more specific if there is something that you would like to focus in on and find a community around globally. So I believe Karina is going to share some examples of previous events, but things like guest lectures, student discussion groups around topics. We've seen some really fun ones in the past too, like SDG trivia or an immersive virtual theater experience. So you can get really creative with this, and we want to leave it fairly open. The last requirement is that your event does need to have a point of contact, a person who can assist in working with UGC on any details. And if it's a virtual event, can help answer any attendee questions or any technical issues during the virtual event, which we know those happen. We might see an example today, who knows? So in addition to planning events, the other ways that you can participate in SDG Week is planning communications throughout the week. So this could be social media, this could be through university newsletters or your organization newsletters. And we do ask if you're using social media that you use the hashtag SDG Week 2025. And that helps us just see kind of some of the activity that's going on around the world. We're happy to repost things and share what's going on. Um, One of the ways to make this a little easier, we know that March is coming up soon, is you might want to share existing work that's going on, or perhaps articles have already been written about some of the amazing work that you're doing in sustainable development. Maybe you've recently achieved a certification or done a review of sustainable development at university, and this is a great time to reshare that information to remind people of all the great work that you're already doing. So there's a variety of ways to participate. You could also think about doing an action campaign to encourage, small actions throughout the week for your campus community. And then the last way to participate is in joining the planning committee. And we will put a sign up in a little bit. The planning committee is, I would say, a pretty light lift in terms of joining a planning committee. We'll have 4 meetings. The first will be in early January, and the last one will be just after SDG week in March. So we'll meet every 3 weeks. The requirements of the planning committee really are that you're interested and invested in sustainable development work at universities, and that you're happy to help promote Sustainable Development Goals Week and the activities around them. There are other ways to engage too, such as, helping to find resources around sustainable development that we can share, but that is not a requirement. So I will turn it over to Karina from here, and I'll be monitoring the Q&A and chat for any questions. So feel free to jump in there, and then we'll move into discussion. Karina?
Thank you, Drew, and thank you for sharing the previous information on the different ways that everyone can participate from anywhere, basically. And also, as you have mentioned, we have already worked on in the past previous years on certain documents to make it easier for everyone on how to plan your event. So you can, for example, visit our event planning guide that has some of the information that Drew has previously shared with you on certain tips of what kind of activities you can organize and the requirements as part of the University Global Coalition we are requesting. As you have mentioned, if the event is going to be in person, it should be free of charge, as well as it's going to be dedicated in a certain SDG or the SDGs in general. But for example, if you are planning on a virtual event, what kind of activities are you planning? What kind of webinar, for example, you are thinking of, and also the importance of registering your event in the SDG calendar of the UGC in order to make sure that your event appears in our calendar and everyone can see it, and you can reach more possible public and audiences from all over the world. Also in this event planning guide, we have a certain checklist of activities that you can start doing from the beginning, identifying speakers, the topic, the time, the date, setting a banner or a flyer for your event, so that we can also share this information through social media, as Drew has mentioned. Some of the activities that we also suggest, and it's included in our planning resources, is the importance of engaging our students. Most of our universities have been planning these activities with a student focus. So that's why in 2021, we organized and developed this student action guide, in order to engage the students in different activities. So if you visit the QR, and thanks Drew for leaving the link in the chat, you can identify this document that we have already worked in the University Global Coalition, with it's I think there are one more than 100 activities that you can suggest for your students. They are pretty easy activities. They are activities that are already organized by SDGs. So, for example, if you want to do something with your students in person, you can have a movie marathon with movies dedicated to the SDGs. No, you can have, of course, a recycle activity. You can organize theater activities. So in this student action guide, we have several recommendations that you, as a professor, as a faculty staff, as a student, can organize in order to engage your students and your community members in these activities of the SDG week. So we invite you to check these two documents, to view them, and get inspired of these activities. But also, if you want, Drew, you can change the next slide. As we have mentioned, if you visit our website, you can find several recordings from previous SDG weeks that we have since 2021. You can see some of the recordings, and you can get some ideas as well of the kind of activities that different universities, different members, and partners have been developing through the past years. So in your screen, you can see some activities, some webinars that we have already had in the previous years. We have some conversations on how to plan SDG engagements at the university campuses. We have webinars on education, on agriculture and food sustainability, maternity mortality, and many other activities. So if you maybe are wondering what kind of webinar or activity we have already had in the SDG week, and you want to also have some inspiration, you can as well visit our planning resources, our SDG recordings, and get some ideas. The recordings that you're going to see in the website are not all, because as Drew has mentioned, even though our SDG week began through webinars because of the pandemic in 2020, it's really nice to see that every year we are starting to have more in-person activities. So, for example, in I think since 2022 and the last 2 years, 22 and 23, our colleagues from Canada joined forces with SDG Canada, SDSN Canada, and they organize and collectively organize an SDG week in Canada with all the universities that are part of SDSN. So they had a lot of in-person activities, hackathons, marathons, trivia pursuits. They have conferences in the university. So some of these activities were not recorded, but are mentioned in our calendar. So you could still visit our calendar as well and get some ideas. And also, for example, in our, I forgot to mention, in our event guide, we also have certain recommendations on how many time you are available. Are you planning a one event activity? Maybe you don't have enough time to organize a webinar or a conference or a weekly long activity. well, as Drew has mentioned, you can also participate in different ways by creating maybe certain media posts, spreading the awareness on the SDGs and the importance of the 5 years that we still have ahead. So there are a lot of suggestions, there are a lot of activities, and we invite you once again to visit our website at the University Global Coalition to get some ideas and get the inspiration that you need to organize your activity. And I think we can move to the next slide and the next session. And as we have mentioned in this part, we want to open the mic to some of our previous colleagues that have participated in universities, Global Coalition, SDG Week in the past years. So it's nice to have and to see here Amy Porter from Earth University and Christian Speeding, I think. Yeah, I think I saw him already in the members from SUNY University, who was also our previous chair. I don't know if Amy or Christian would like to share their experience and some recommendations on the event planning for SDG Week. How was your experience? Maybe some of the events that you uh, organized in past years that you want to share with the public. Amy, I think.
Can
Yeah.
you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Porter. As Karina said, I'm from Earth University, and I just wanted to talk about a few things that we've done over the past. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Drew. One thing that I really like that we did is, well, we're on a consortium with other universities. And we did do one with students, which I know Karina and Drew had mentioned about trying to get students involved, where we had students from Earth University and students from UC Davis in California present about student farms. We were working predominantly with SDG2 focus, but so it took a little planning pre this SDG2 week because we needed to get those students together. But it was basically just a platform where they could talk about what they were doing, and then inviting students from other universities to sort of join with them in the future. So I liked that one. We did roundtable discussions with some of our students and professors, and again, using those professors from UC Davis and Earth. And we also did an international student challenge, which then was off from that week, but it was throughout the year. And then the winner also presented. So I think what I can say is what I really liked was that we got a lot of students involved from Earth and other universities. So that pulled in. Then some of our Earth students said that from those sessions, they've been in contact with students from the other universities that were on the online. So these were all online events. The planning, I would say it wasn't that high when you have people that are really interested in doing this, one or two sessions, in-house or between universities beforehand. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity for me to have all the universities, as you saw on the line. Here we have North America, we have Central America, I think I saw Indonesia, Africa. So getting all of our students from all the different continents and universities working together for the SDG goals. I don't know if you want me to say any more, if that's good enough.
That's perfect, Amy. Thank you for sharing your experience and also sharing the different activities that you have done at Earth University that shows the variety of activities that we have across a University Global Coalition. And thank you for joining us today from Costa Rica.
Thank
And
you.
now I give the mic to Christian, who, as I mentioned before, is from SUNY University, and he was a previous chair of this committee.
Yes, thank you, Karina. As she mentioned, or good day, everybody. As Karina mentioned, I'm at the State University of New York, but I'm at the System Administration Office of Global Affairs. So I'm not at an actual university. I'm at the system offices, sort of the central administration office. So I do not have direct access to students or even really direct access to faculty or any of that stuff. So my role here was always sort of as a promoter, communicator, organizer, trying to get the word out as much as possible. I also mentioned I'm working in global affairs, so my area is international programs, study abroad, incoming international students, that sort of thing. Not, we don't sit at a sustainability office. So some of the sessions that we being SUNY have put together in the past have been around sustainability while traveling. So study abroad and, trying to reduce your impact on the environment. And then of course, SUNY is a vast network of universities. So there's 64 universities. So we've had other sessions as well. I think I forgot who the person who was just speaking their name, but Amy maybe was mentioning getting students involved. And that's super important and is honestly the whole idea of SDG Action and Awareness Week was to get as many students involved as possible. And I recall some good ideas from organizing sessions in the past where folks would talk to faculty and have them identify some of the student learning outcomes of their courses that correlate to one of the 17 SDGs. Then you can ask your faculty members to either like co-organize or participate in an event that's highlighting one or more of those SDGs that is already associated with their learning outcomes and with their courses. And then they can offer either extra credit or sometimes require their students to attend the event as part of the course. So it's like, this is one of our learning outcomes. It's related to, I don't know, life on land. And so we're doing that. We know about a session, or we're going to co-organize a session that we'd like you to participate in. And if you do, you get a little extra credit, or, maybe it's something that's part of the module for that week, so they have to come. Anything like that will inevitably result in students attending an event that they might not otherwise have thought of attending, and help to spread that awareness more broadly. So that's just a thought.
Thank you, Christian. Yes, and as you mentioned, this last point, it's one of the main challenges I think that we have faced as at University Law Coalition and all the planning committee, because we are now competing with their classes, with their regular activities on campus. But as you have mentioned, there are certain ways to engage the students and to make sure that they can attend these kind of events, either they are virtual or in person. And also, I want to thank you for sharing your experience, and also this point of view that as you have mentioned, you were not part of the faculty per se or the academic area, but more from the administrative areas, but you help also to engage your university and your colleagues in these kind of activities by spreading the word, being part of this committee. So it was, as you can see, it's a different point of view and in a different ways to engage in the planning committee. You don't need to be a teacher to engage your university or to organize certain activities. So I also want to thank you, Christian, for sharing your point of view today with all the people joining us. And also, for example, I want to share our experience from Tec de Monterrey. As I have mentioned, we have been participating in the SDG Week for the last 4 years. But for example, in our case, the first years, we were organizing the events, the webinars on different topics of SDGs, the SDGs in general. We had in 2023, for example, a major conference at Tec de Monterrey in the SDGs, on the SDGs. And we decided to have it on the same week of SDG weeks, and then we mentioned we have it already covered. But what we saw was that we needed more engagement from our students. So in this year in 2024, what we decided to do at Tec de Monterrey was to open a call for our students so that they could organize an event on the topics that they wanted, with the people and the speakers they wanted, and to have the outcomes they wanted. So we had this open call. We had 3 different events across Mexico, from Mexico City. I think it was another in Monterrey and another in Sonora. So each student committee organized their activities, and the only thing that we did at Tec de Monterrey was to provide them a Zoom link, and register all the activities in the UGC calendar. But we gave the students the power to organize their activities, and the only thing that we did was to share with them the event planning guide, the requirements, and it was all under their control. So it was quite interesting for us to give them this power, because in this way we make sure that the students were attending the events that they wanted, and they were having the contents and the topics that they were interested in, and they wanted to learn more. So it was quite an experience, and I also want to share this with you, because maybe some colleagues don't have enough time to participate or to plan an event, and maybe you can organize with some students, and student groups or student unions are at your university, and they can organize interesting activities. And I don't know, Drew, but I think we have some questions in the chat as well, and some hands
And
raised.
a
Maybe you can.
raised hand. Yeah, let me, Zulkifli, who I recognize. Good to see you. So you can unmute if you have a question.
Yes, thank you. Good evening from here. Good morning in US and Mexico. As I said, currently I'm at a university in Banda Aceh, Indonesia. But as a university, one of the tasks of it is community service. And now I have a question. I have a consultation with a new agricultural company that's mainly uh, produce like coffee, palm, and any other community products. So I respond the owner, and they ask me to join part time. I agree to have them because that is in line with SDG, uh, mainly SDG 1, SDG 2, SDG 8, SDG 13, and particularly SDG 17. What is I want to know, because they always ask me how to find the investor, how to find the buyer, to connect, to partner, to improve the quality of the people around the company. In this opportunity, I would like to know maybe the here I can have a bit information about investor or one who want to support to be partner with the agricultural company that can help many people in my area to be a better, and as well as to support SDG, several SDG as I said. And if it's possible to know that, we want to know the information about investor and buyer if there is available in the participant here. So we can use that as uh, as the thing, as the basic to make the to join in the SDG awareness in March 2025 in the next 4 months. So we need that information.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for that
So,
question. Yeah, thank you
yeah,
for the question. So we do have a lot of universities who partner with businesses in various ways to
yeah,
advance sustainable development, and we definitely encourage that. One thing I didn't note with the events is that we do want to make sure that any event is not directly selling a product, because this would not be the right venue for that. So I do want to note that. The other thing that I'll note, and I'll be, fairly direct, is that University Global Coalition does not provide funding directly. But there are many resources out there around funding for sustainable development. I can put a few in the chat. I know the World Bank has a sustainable development fund. International Monetary Fund has some resources on fundraising for this, but that's a bit beyond the scope of Sustainable Development Goals Week and and University Global Coalition at the minute. But we do recognize that there's a lot of need out there for funding. So
yeah,
I'll put some links in the chat, hopefully, that can point you to some potential resources.
yeah. That's what I mean. We want the link of the network. I understand that University Global Coalition do not provide that, but the link with the investor, the link with generous people who want to invest, want to partner with the new agricultural company who want to help many people. So if you have the link, we can connect and communicate. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Ms.
thank
Carles.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question.
Also, we have in the chat, Rose, a couple of questions
Okay.
from Raj, Dean of the Leon Hess Business School, Monmouth University in the USA. And they are asking us if can a business school share some best practices and on the integration of artificial intelligence, machine learning in the SDG related programs. So yeah, regarding question number one, yes, of course, any good practice from any school faculty that you can share with the public that has direct impact in the SDGs, they can share with them in a webinar or in any activity. But as Drew has mentioned, it is important that we make sure that there's no selling of a product or a service during these events, because that's not the nature of our activities. We want to spread awareness on the SDGs and not have any beneficial activity or commercial activity within our events. So that's important to mention. And I did not get the second question on the integration of artificial intelligence in the SDG related programs. I don't know if, I mean, if you want to share with the public on how you have been integrating AI in your SDG programs, I think it will be interesting to see how artificial intelligence is impacting positive and negative your activities in and the SDG programs. So that would be quite interesting if that's something you want to share with the public. But I don't know if that was the nature of the question. So if you could just let us know if I address it correctly. And also Shiva Shander is asking if will UGC help to identify resource persons? I don't know, Drew, if you want to answer this.
I think it depends on the resource needed. So if it is directly for planning the events at your university or your organization, that is the responsibility of the university or the organizer. in previous years planning events with Georgia Tech. I've served as point person and also convinced other colleagues to help serve to kind of spread some of the effort. So I definitely recommend that. We can certainly help consult on any ideas you have if you might like just a little bit of feedback on, is this something that you've seen interest in the past, but we wouldn't provide direct event planning support. So hopefully that answers the question there. And then in relation to Raja's question about the artificial intelligence and the SDGs, I did want to note that one of our active member institutions is chairing a group around AI in higher education. And that is through the Higher Education Sustainability Initiative with the UN. And happy to connect you there if that is a connection that would be helpful. I believe he was going to join today, but wasn't able to, and is always interested in connecting. So just let us know on that. Any other questions or desire to share? I can briefly share about Georgia Tech's experience, and I will keep it brief because I know we're going to wrap up shortly. I will say with Georgia Tech, we've very much served as kind of a central coordinator. I work in the Office of Sustainability there, and we served as kind of a central coordinator for the activities. So we have kind of an intake form. We do a webinar similar to this one specific to Georgia Tech, where we introduce the concept of SDG Week. We invite organizations to plan. We do a lot of email outreach and communications, and we do have the support of our president, which is really helpful to have that support at an executive level if you have a contact, in the president or provost office or something like that to kind of help amplify the message and the importance of it, and also get some communications resources. That's very helpful. I'll say the first year, I think we planned 3 virtual events. Well, me and colleagues planned 3 virtual events. The second year we went up to 10. And then last year we had about 30 events on the calendar. So I think you might be surprised if you kind of keep the momentum going that people will hear about it. They'll come to expect it from year to year, and engage with planning. And I'll put a link to our events calendar from this previous year in the chat so you can see kind of the breadth and depth of events. A lot of them were organized by student groups. There are some that are specific to research, some that international education organized a few fun things like a tea hour, things like that. So there's a really wide variety of activities that you can take. And since we're closing out on time, I will quickly just share a couple of closing details.
Yes. Of course, if you have any more questions, we can you can write them in the chat and we can discuss them. So yeah, on the previous experiences, as here you can see some of the information that we shared in our UGC calendar. These are from our colleagues from Georgia Institute, Tecno Monterrey, and SUNY. These events are from past years, so you can see the different variety of activity that we have at SDG Week. As we have mentioned, some of the activities, we have them both in Spanish and English, depending on the university and the country they are. But we try to share this variety of activities and topics regarding sustainability for our students. And I don't know, Drew, if you can go to the next slide, please. So as Drew has mentioned, we have a small timeline of activities. We are kicking off our planning webinar today. And also we want to see if anyone is interested in being part of this planning committee. As Drew mentioned early on this webinar, we are planning to have just 4 meetings. The first one will be in January 2025, on the week of January 6 to 10, to discuss any possible ideas of events, if there's any topics we want to highlight. and we are starting to receive the submissions to host an event from any university that's interested in being part of this SDG week. Later on February, we will have our second meeting of the planning committee. That in this way, we are thinking of meeting every 3 weeks probably. So we have enough time to organize within the planning committee, but also in our institutions. And it's important to mention that we have established a deadline to submit any event on February 21st to make sure that these activities are all reflected in the SDG calendar. SDG week calendar at University Global Coalition website. On the week of March 3 until 7th, we will have our SDG Action and Awareness Week. This is the week where we are suggesting that everyone should organize their activities. So we invite you to host, share, and engage in our different activities. We will try to share them through our social networks, but we invite you as well to share and spread all the activities that we are going to have in this SDG week. As we have mentioned, the calendar event will be available at UGC's website, and we also kindly request you to record your event, take pictures, have fun, and enjoy your activities and other activities that might be interesting for you and your universities. And later on April next year, we will have a closing meeting of the SDG Planning Week, just to wrap up everything, get some insights, reflection on how the activities carry out, if it was easy for everyone or if it was complicated. We invite you to start registering, submitting the information of your event. It's pretty easy and simple forms where you just need the information of your event, the program, the objective, and some flyer if you already have it. So please check the website and register your event. And if you have any question regarding the University Global Coalition, please write to the University Global Coalition at gmail.com for any question regarding this. And if you have a particular question on the SDG week, please do not hesitate to contact me at karina.ruiz@tech.mx. I will share my email as well. And Drew, I don't know if you want to share something else.
I think we're ready to close. I saw a few really great resources shared in the chat for SDG related groups that people might be interested in joining. University of Central Arkansas had a great website with several events from SDG Week 2024. So thank you for sharing that. I am not able to react to chat messages for some reason, but I love them all. And really appreciative of everyone sharing your questions and your experiences today and your time. You can reach out to us with the contact information on the screen. We'll share a few links in the follow-up email and the recording. And thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. If it's the end of your day, a great tomorrow, and we will be in touch.
Thank you very much for joining us, and we are here for you. So hopefully we will see you in next meeting.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.